This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Wintry blast. A nor'easter closes schools and knocks out electricity to nearly 140,000 homes and businesses.
Another water source. Truro is getting a new fill-up station following concerns about the quality of a local spring.
And for the love of Lego, a Halifax exhibit displays larger-than-life animals made out of hundreds of thousands of blocks.
Flurries back on tap overnight and into Tuesday. We are clearing but cooling for midweek. Your full forecast is coming up.
Good evening. It has been a day of cleaning up across the province after last night's winter storm. The blast of snow forced the closures of businesses, schools, and roads.
Power outages were also widespread. Currently, around 35,000 customers remain offline. But as Carolyn Ray tells us, some people were determined to make the most of it.
By the time Nova Scotia woke up, the damage was done. An overnight blast of winter that knocked out power for nearly 140,000 homes and businesses. As crews got to work, the extent of the damage became clear. The heavy snow ripped branches off trees, taking lines down with it.
Well, I noticed that there was a police vehicle with its lights flashing, and I thought, what's that about? Then I noticed the wire hanging down on the street and the giant branch that had broken off the tree across the way. But my lights are on and my Wi-Fi is working, so I guess it can't be a wire that affects my house.
The streets were filled with the same sounds, scooping and scraping. Nova Scotians got to work cleaning it up. While it looked stunning, the police warned conditions were dangerous. Lights were out in many intersections. The highway between Halifax and the airport was closed for hours after trucks slid and blocked the road. Malls were left in the dark, their parking lots empty. All schools across the province were closed. For some, it was unplanned but very welcome family time.
Oh, it's joyous. We were up at 3 last night because our little one has a cold, and we looked outside and it was all snowing, so we were pretty excited that we were probably going to get a snow day.
Every home was covered. Homemade ice rinks had to be cleaned up too. These friends converged in an empty parking lot, eager to put their new snow building supplies to the test, building an igloo and memories.
I really wanted to go outside and play with the snow and do stuff fun.
Nova Scotia Power says it has 300 workers trying to bring everyone back online. But with this heavy dose of snow, turning the power back on will take time. Carolyn Ray, CBC News, Halifax.
And those weather conditions kept Ryan Snoddon busy this weekend as well.
Sure did. A perfect snow for making those snowmen and the forts.
Absolutely. Great snow fort making weather, great snowman making weather, snowballs. My kids were out all day, and I think this picture really sums it up as well, right? That why we had so many outages. The snow, especially down toward the Atlantic coast, was almost oatmeal-like. It was heavy, wet, and just dragging those power lines or those branches and trees down into the power lines. And yes, so really, really tough, obviously, for crews with so many outages to get to them all. Now, as we look at our preliminary snowfall totals, most of us were in that 15 to 20 centimeter range, and these totals will be a little bit higher for you folks in the east. These are as of 7 to 9 a.m., and we did see some additional snowfall here in the east after that, but a pretty good shot for most, and it was fluffier toward the valley and in through the Cumberland County area, by the way. Now, as we look at the outlook, overnight into Tuesday, we've got a little bit more coming, a trace to a couple of centimeters for most. Could see some pockets closer to 5 centimeters, higher terrain areas, and down towards Digby and Annapolis County in particular, some onshore flurries and maybe a couple of snow squalls in through Tuesday. We'll talk more about that with your full forecast coming up in a couple of minutes.
Still to come. Okay, thanks,
you.
Ryan.
Thank you.
The Serious Incident Response Team is investigating after a Halifax regional police officer shot a man who was then taken to hospital with life-threatening injuries. Police say they received reports of several liquor store robberies Saturday afternoon. Police say when they found the suspect, he threatened officers with a knife. One officer then deployed a taser, which was ineffective. A second officer drew his gun and shot the man. A witness working in a nearby store says she heard shouting before a gunshot.
Some people are kind of cleared out, and we ended up closing up shop for the evening, but yeah, definitely shock.
37-year-old Brent Alexander Julian was scheduled to appear in Halifax Provincial Court today to face numerous charges.
The lawyer for a doctor accused of multiple sexual assaults made a brief appearance in Nova Scotia Provincial Court in Amherst this morning. Dr. Sanjeev Sirpal was facing 3 charges relating to his work in the emergency department at the hospital in Amherst. But during this morning's appearance, the Crown withdrew one of the charges, saying there was no reasonable prospect of conviction. Sirpal has opted to have a second charge heard by a Nova Scotia Supreme Court justice. The third charge was dealt with in December and goes to trial in November.
A new watering hole is being constructed in Colchester County. It comes after concerns were raised about a long-standing spring in Lower Truro. Luke Ettinger has more on when the new tap will turn on.
Depends on how many cars, obviously, but waiting here now, could be here half an hour or so.
Lexi Stowe is willing to wait for water from what's known as the Lower Truro Spring. But this site is set to be decommissioned. A new free-fill station is being constructed after the municipality of Colchester opted not to renew a lease for the spring.
So there's some concerns around the quality of water in the long term there.
Up to $150,000 is being spent by the county to establish the site on Titleborg Road. A small building with a drive-through will be connected to the town of Truro water supply.
The intent at the end is to keep both sites running for a few weeks to make sure that all the hiccups are ironed out and that the site is functioning, the new site is functioning as it should.
The Lower Truro Spring is a continuous flow of water that's sourced from overflow of a private well. And despite the municipality installing signs that advise the water is to be used at your own risk, many have continued to fill up.
I heard about it. Supposed to be closing down, but that I didn't hear that it was being moved. So that's going to be good for a lot of people.
When it gets backed up here, sometimes people are out on the side of the road and, forming 3 lines. So they could probably improve on that a little bit, but other than that, it's great here.
Tensions over wait times at the spring have boiled over in the past.
Yeah, you have 26 bottles there.
Yeah, and I waited enough time just as much as you did.
Being rude.
Including this verbal altercation about bottle limits posted to social media last year. Boudreau says residents are reminded to be respectful, but adds the county doesn't have the ability to enforce bottle limits. Meanwhile, it is expected to be a couple months before electrical and plumbing work is complete on the new fill station. Luke Ettinger, CBC News, Lower Truro.
Eligible residents in Cumberland County will soon have more options for affordable housing and a new path to home ownership. The Groves at Hillsdale, a modular home community in Amherst, will have 47 homes when complete. 28 of them will be sold under a shared ownership model between the buyer and United Way Maritimes, while the other 19 will have affordable monthly rent. The home ownership model is a first for the province. Buyers will not require a down payment, and United Way Maritimes will retain about 30% ownership of the homes. Costs will range from $127,000 for a 1-bedroom home to $182,000 for 2 bedrooms. All levels of government are supporting the more than $7 million project.
Team USA spoiled the party in Sydney Sunday night. The Americans defeated Canada in the gold medal game at the Under-18 World Women's Hockey Championships. Despite the results, organizers are calling the tournament a success. Kyle Moore reports.
Team USA opened the scoring in the first period and never looked back, on their way to a 2-0 gold medal win over Team Canada in the Under-18 World Women's Hockey Championships. The game was played in front of a sold-out crowd of more than 5,000 fans at Sydney Centre 200.
There's so much pride in wearing the jersey, like I've heard from so many people that's been in my shoes and that, like being able to have it, living in the moment, like really I'm just trying to take it all in, even though it's not the result we wanted.
Team Canada were undefeated going into the final game, scoring 52 goals over 3 games, which is a single tournament record. Despite the loss, the players appreciated the support they received from the fans and the community.
I feel like they were great. I'm from a small community too, and to have everyone come out and support, I feel like was pretty amazing.
Most of Team Canada's games were sold out. Organizers say they surpassed their ticket sales goal and overall are calling the tournament a major success.
I've been to Sydney before, for other sporting events, and that hometown crowd is just fantastic. Every game feels like it's a home game, and the people couldn't be nicer. And I would say coming back to Sydney is a very definite possibility in the future.
The president and CEO of Hockey Canada says she was impressed with the event and that Hockey Canada will definitely look at Cape Breton again.
I think if we're taking a look at Women's Worlds, we certainly could look at the province of Nova Scotia. They've done really well. And often we share with cities when we're doing larger events. So you can certainly take a look at Sydney as being part of one of our larger events.
Sunday's game was the hottest ticket in town, with resale tickets selling for more than $1,400 each. Kyle Moore, CBC News, Sydney.
Some high school hockey players in Halifax are hoping to make the sport more inclusive. The Citadel High boys hockey team hosted their 3rd annual Pride Night this weekend. The CBC's Andrew Sampson reports.
Citadel High forward Callum Walsh is fired up. He's in the team's locker room and minutes away from hitting the ice. He unspools a roll of rainbow tape and wraps it around his hockey stick. It's Pride Night.
Like the whole point of the game, we're trying to show people that, yes, hockey and LGBTQ people can mix, right?
Walsh has played hockey most of his life, but he'd be the first to admit the sport hasn't always been welcoming to queer people.
Especially when I was younger, it was more prevalent, people saying gay or queer as a derogatory word.
Times, however, are changing.
I've never heard it with my time at Citadel, which has been great, right? You should never say that. It's just embarrassing, to be honest.
His teammates agree and say they're happy to don their brand new Pride jersey.
It's changed a lot. Even in the past 2 or 3 years, people wouldn't be so friendly, wouldn't be so kind and accepting, but over the past 3 years, we now are way more careful of what we say, and we really accept them. And we even have this rule that if anyone says anything negative about the LGBT community, they have to do push-ups in front of the team as sort of a punishment. So we hold them accountable.
The team organized the event with help from the school's Gender Sexuality Alliance. The GSA says working with the players has been an eye-opening experience.
It was really surprising because I personally went to elementary school with even a bunch of them, and I never really thought to think, oh, they would accept me for who I am.
The members say it's been heartening to see the team so eager to support Pride and set an example for others.
It really does prove that, with enough knowledge, people can change. And even if they were away at one point, it doesn't mean that that person will be that way for their entire life.
As Citadel takes the ice, they're greeted by a roar of applause. It's being led by their friends in the GSA. Both groups united by a shared goal, showing hockey is for everyone. Andrew Sampson, CBC News, Halifax.
Well, if your kids are into Lego, you might want to take them down to the Discovery Center in Halifax this winter.
A brand new exhibit showcases larger-than-life animals built with painstaking precision using only Lego. Have a look.
So this is Sean Kenny's Animal Superpowers built with Lego bricks. So we have a ton of giant Lego animals, and each sign kind of tells us about their superpowers. So every single animal is made with thousands of tiny Lego bricks, and they come together. I know the polar bear came with 150,000 pieces of Lego. It took 16 days straight to build. Every animal is built with Lego, even the inside, so they're not hollow. They are completely made of Lego, and they are very heavy. Kids have been loving it, both kids and parents. I sat with a kid who sat down in front of the animals, and he said he was awestruck.
What is your favorite thing about seeing the animals today?
I like the green stuff. I love a lot of stuff.
Were you surprised that things like the woodpecker there it's all Lego, that they made the big sculpture?
Yeah, how do they make that?
My favorite is the mountain goats, so that's over in this direction. I think there's 3 mountain goats, but when you take a closer look, you can see that the hair on the bottom of the mountain goats is actually tiny little white like sculptures of humans that are stuck upside down. So it's very detailed, and I just like that you can look and really see how much detail and effort that the artist really put in. So the exhibit will be here for 3 months, and people can come to Discovery Center and check it out. It's on level 0, so it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of snow on those birdhouses.
For sure.
They don't have to shovel, though.
I hope not.
Ryan's up next with the weather forecast.
This weather update is brought to you in part by Atlantic Lottery's iGames. Play hundreds of games on the Atlantic Lottery app or at alc.ca.
Oh, yeah, it was a winter wonderland this morning.
Everybody out
lots
shoveling.
Of shoveling, all the neighbors out shoveling, and a little more snow on the way, too.
But not like we saw.
No,
last night,
thankfully.
Right?
My back's still a little,
Hey, you're feeling it.
a little tight.
It was heavy.
It was heavy, for
stretches.
sure.
Out of shoveling shape.
Yeah, we haven't had a lot of workouts like that so far this winter. And the good news is that what's coming in over the next couple days looks fairly light and manageable, though we'll still have to watch for the slick roads and whatnot. Have a look at our temperatures out there this afternoon. It was right around the freezing mark, which is kind of where we were for most of last night as well, which led to that heavy, wet snow for most of the province. Again, the valley was closer to traditional average snow in terms of that shoveling, and it was quite fluffy up towards the Amherst area and into Prince Edward Island. There are your temperatures as we look at the currents, and then as we look at the winds. Yeah, things thankfully haven't been too gusty today. That was one of the best things about today, really, for the kids. It wasn't too cold to get out there, kind of out there all day, and the winds weren't howling in behind the system, which they can so often do when we have a system blowing through, the winds come in from the northwest and behind. That was not the case with this one. Some wind, but not too bad. And you can see some light snow and flurries moving across the province right now. This is the low that's going to be working its way in over the next couple of days. And with that, we'll see some flurries and the risk for some snow squalls developing, as I mentioned earlier, particularly through Digby, the Annapolis Valley region, and into Colchester and Cumberland. High pressure following it up, which will keep things quiet for Wednesday anyway. And the colder air that is starting to work its way back into Canada. And boy, when you get your eyes on that 7-day forecast, a little reminder that we are still very much in January. Overnight lows tonight, -2 to -4. Westerly winds, 20, gusting to 40 for most. Some gusts to 50 in Cape Breton, and also looking at some gusts to 50 and 60 by tomorrow morning. The winds are going to crank up for you folks in the Tri-County area and into western areas of the valley, and that is going to be the case again throughout the day tomorrow. Sustained near 40, gusting 50 to 60 kilometers per hour. Sustained near 20, gusting to 40 in through central areas, and we'll be looking at southwest winds shifting to west for you folks in Cape Breton. Sustained near 50, gusting 30 rather, gusting to 50 kilometers per hour. So it is going to be a gustier one tomorrow. There's the little wave that's moving through right now, and we are looking at more flurries overnight into Tuesday morning. And this is where we're looking at, as that wind punches in, the potential for those onshore flurries. We will see onshore flurries, but the potential for some of those snow squalls setting up tomorrow in these onshore winds. Yarmouth down through the southwest, also from the Annapolis Valley across through Cobequid Bay, Colchester, Cumberland. These are going to be our best chances to get into a squall or two for Tuesday. Looking like that could linger even into the early evening hours of Tuesday. So there's the outlook for snowfall overnight into Tuesday morning. A trace to a couple centimeters possible. The greatest risk in these onshore flurries, especially late overnight into tomorrow morning. And as we run the model out to this time tomorrow, and you can see where we could see some pockets of 5 to 10 centimeters here, and kind of 2 to 5 across northwestern parts of the province, including for you folks Inverness and Victoria counties. Wednesday, we're looking at temperature highs generally -4 to -7. A little bit cooler for you folks in Cape Breton, a little milder in through the Tri-County area. But Wednesday is going to be chilly with a northwest wind to start the day. And then as we move into the afternoon, the winds will shift to west and southwest. Could see a isolated flurry late day as that little wave comes in. And then Thursday morning, waking up to some snowfall coming down. This will change to showers as we move our way into Thursday afternoon. Could even see a break of sun or two. And from that system, Wednesday night into Thursday, the bulk of the snow looking set for New Brunswick and across Cumberland County. That's our best chances of 5 to 10 centimeters, as well as Inverness and Victoria counties. Most of us looking at a trace to a couple of centimeters from this one, especially when we factor in the change to showers. That said, Thursday morning could still be a little on the slick side. Temperatures bumping up into the 2 to 3 range. Friday, near the freezing mark, a quiet day, and then, Long John weather returns Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Get ready for it.
Yeah.
All right.
Get ready. Okay, thanks so much, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Well, the community of St. Mary's in Newfoundland and Labrador is dealing with a stench that is getting even worse after wind damaged the abandoned fish sauce plant, exposing the rotting fish inside.
It is prompting health and environmental concerns. The CBC's Julia Israel shows us the renewed calls for help.
Ferocious winds ripping the southern coast of Newfoundland are airing out a toxic issue long left shut.
Rotten fish is what it is. It's just a sour, awful smell.
A nauseating smell cloaks the rural town of St. Mary's. The abandoned fish sauce plant here has caused strife since it was built in the 80s. Winds this week tore off the plant's wall, leaving huge vats of fermenting fish even more exposed.
I wouldn't put my clothes on the line because the smell will go through your clothes.
The worst smell that you ever smelled in your life, times about 10, times about 20.
A 2016 Environment Canada report found the effluent inside the plant to be acutely lethal to fish. Now, with the plant's wall floating out at sea, Mayor Steve Ryan's concerns are growing.
We have one resident lives there just about 50 to 100 feet away from it, so we're going to evacuate her tomorrow. And another concern that I have on the opposite side that we can't do much about is the environment.
For years, Ryan has been calling for support from the federal government.
Why don't they have money to help a little small town in St. Mary's in Newfoundland? We have 307 residents. Why we've been left behind by the federal government is pretty disheartening.
CBC News reached out to the federal Minister of Environment, who did not respond in time for broadcast. For now, the community is forced to live alongside the smell.
I always think of that for that plant, how it took away so much for so many people in St. Mary's. Kids couldn't play up on the field from times because there's too much of a stench. And the stink, unless you live here, you don't get it. You really don't get it.
A statement from the provincial environment minister says the department is committed to cleaning up the site, and it will be on the ground Monday morning to focus on the next steps. With another windstorm expected, there may be more damage to come. Julia Israel, CBC News, St. Mary's, Newfoundland.
Coming up, health professionals are calling on Ottawa to remove processed meats from hospital and school menus. There's a renewed call for governments to change food menus in schools and hospitals in this country. 164 doctors, dietitians, and other healthcare professionals across Canada are calling for the removal of processed meats for health reasons. Dr. Irina Genya is a family physician in North Sydney. She signed the open letter. So, Dr. Genya, how much processed meats, can you give us an idea, do you think is still being served in hospitals and schools these days?
That's a great question, and I can't tell you specifically because obviously it varies from institution to institution, but the important thing to note is that we don't need to eat a lot of processed meats for it to negatively impact our health. In fact, we have studies that show that as little as 50 grams per day, which is the equivalent of one hot dog, a couple of slices of bacon, or a few pieces of deli meat in a sandwich, are enough to increase our risk of cancer, heart disease, and various other diseases. So the amount doesn't matter so much. The fact that it's there at all is an issue.
Okay, and so what is it about them that makes them so dangerous to our health? Because it's being compared to carcinogens here.
So actually not compared to carcinogens. The World Health Organization declared processed meat to be a class 1 carcinogen in 2015. So that's the same level of evidence as tobacco and asbestos. So there's no question whether they do cause cancer. We know for certain that they do. And there are a few ways that can happen. And I guess the most common, or maybe well-researched one, is something called nitrates or nitrites. And these are compounds that are added to meat to preserve color, prevent bacterial overgrowth, and prolong shelf life. And these compounds, when we eat them, react with proteins in our bodies, and they produce other compounds that are carcinogenic. They can directly alter our DNA and increase likelihood of mutations. So that's the first way. There's also heme iron, which people might know of as the iron that's found in meat. And so that's what makes red meat or processed meat red. And that kind of iron also leads to these compounds that can cause damage and inflammation to our cells, the cells in our intestines. And so that's another way that it can cause, these products can cause cancer. And probably the last way is the way that these things are prepared. So when we cook processed meats, or any meats actually, at high temperatures, frying, grilling, smoking, they do produce other compounds that can also be carcinogenic and promote mutations in our DNA. And so those are a few ways anyways that these products can lead to cancer. So they're carcinogenic. What do you want Health Canada or various levels of government to do about this? So I suppose the simplest way to phrase it would be that we would like the government to align the food that's being served in hospitals and schools with the best health evidence out there. And that includes following something like Canada's Food Guide, which since 2019 has advocated that we don't include processed meats and any significant amount of red meats in our diet. And that's been there for 6 years now. So I think it's time that we start to have policies follow the evidence. And often policy takes a little longer. There's a lag, and that's why clinicians are speaking out now and try to close that gap.
It might scare some people to hear. I mean, people hear processed, and we know, we've heard lots of times that's not good for you, but, you know, a regular diet that contains some meat, what would you say to that? So specifically in this letter, we're talking about processed meat, so not all meat is the same. So in this letter, we're talking about processed meat specifically, and replacing processed meat with healthier plant-based alternatives is definitely health promoting. Meat itself, if we're talking about red meat, so the World Health Organization does class that as a group 2A carcinogen, which means it probably causes cancer, but we can't say it with the same level of evidence as we can for the processed meats. Of course, chicken and fish and turkey, those things are not on the same levels. So it's the processed meats that we're specifically concerned about this time. And so do you feel like you're getting any traction here? It's hard to say because the letter just went out this morning, and certainly there's a lot of
there are a lot of people who are aware and they seem to be on board. I think the difficulty is that most people don't know about the risks of processed meats, and that's one of the other things that we're looking for the government to do is launch some kind of national campaign to increase awareness of the health risks of processed meats, and maybe some education about the healthier plant-based alternatives. So we'll have to see how much traction we get.
All right, well, we'll be watching for sure. Dr. Genia, I really appreciate your time on this. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for covering this.
Coming up, Prime Minister Mark Carney arrives in Switzerland, the last stop on his trip to shore up Canada's global trade ties.
And European leaders are pushing back on U.S. President Donald Trump's repeated threats to take over Greenland. Welcome back. Donald Trump is ratcheting up the pressure on the international community to let him take over Greenland. But European leaders are not rolling over.
Now, in addition to sending small contingents of troops to the Danish-owned island, they've called an emergency summit for later this week about the U.S. president's plan. That as they ponder whether Trump's aggression is linked to a certain peace prize. Chris Brown reports.
More Danish boots on the ground arrived in Greenland, with Europe in full emergency mode over Donald Trump's threats to take over the island. A new text conversation is fueling the sense that his Greenland obsession may really be about sour grapes. Norway's prime minister texted in part to Trump, "We believe we all should work to take this down and de-escalate." Trump replied, "Considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize for having stopped 8 wars plus, I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace."
Donald Trump to a very
In fact, it's not Norway's government that hands out the prize.
I think the particular choice of words certainly relates to the fact that he's sort of a hissy fit about not getting the prize.
Despite the text being released and confirmed by Norway's government, Trump's Treasury Secretary was dismissive.
It's a complete canard that the president will be doing this because of the Nobel Prize.
Trump has said the U.S. needs title to Greenland, which is an autonomous territory of Denmark, to stop Russia or China from getting it. He's vowed to hit 8 European NATO nations who recently sent troops to Greenland with tariffs starting next month until he gets what he wants. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz underscored Europe has options for retaliation, with tariffs of its own or restrictions on U.S. businesses, as other leaders signaled a kind of reluctant resolve.
We are living in 2026. You can trade with people, but you don't trade people.
The right way to approach an issue of this seriousness is through calm discussion between allies.
Greenland not for sale!
Trump's threats have generated strong anti-U.S. sentiments in Europe. At this NBA game in London Sunday night, a heckler's call out to leave Greenland alone got a rousing ovation. Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
Mark Carney is also trying to determine how Canada should respond to Donald Trump's latest threats. He's now in Europe for the World Economic Forum, an international event the U.S. president will be attending as well. The CBC's Ashley Burke is traveling with the Prime Minister.
The Prime Minister has touched down here in Switzerland. This is Mark Carney's third and final stop on a trip that's taken him around the world, from China to Qatar and now to the Swiss resort town of Davos, to try and deepen ties with countries outside of the U.S. But as Carney tries to distance Canada from its southern neighbor, he could run into Donald Trump while he's here. They are both expected to speak at the World Economic Forum. This gathering of political and business leaders falls just days after the U.S. president threatened European allies with tariffs if they resist his desire to take over Greenland. Yesterday, Carney told us, journalists traveling with him, that he's concerned about this escalation. And Canadian officials tell CBC News that the Prime Minister is weighing a contingency plan to send a small group of troops to Greenland to take part in sovereignty exercises that the Danes are planning. Now, tomorrow, the Prime Minister is expected to meet with Emmanuel Macron, the President of France, a country currently facing Trump's tariff threats after it sent some troops to Greenland. So far, we are told that there is no official meeting between Trump and Carney scheduled, but Carney says that if he runs into the president, he'll tell him his view that the future of Greenland is up to Greenland and Denmark to decide. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Corton.
Investigators are looking into possible causes behind Sunday's collision of 2 trains in southern Spain. At least 40 people were killed in the accident and more than 120 injured. Briar Stewart has more on the accident and the aftermath.
Throughout the night, rescue crews worked to reach victims trapped in mangled rail cars. Spain's deadliest train accident in more than a decade violently unfolded on a remote stretch of tracks more than 300 kilometers south of Madrid. The impact was like a sudden blow, said Montse Ruiz. I was sitting in the last seats of the carriage and I was thrown around. Just before 8 p.m., 3 carriages on a train bound for the capital derailed toward the opposite side of the track. Within 20 seconds, a train heading southbound collided with the cars. Its front 2 carriages fell down a 3.5-meter embankment. At least 40 were killed and dozens more are in hospital. This woman, who only gave her first name Anna, was pulled out of the train by other passengers who broke through the windows. Some were fine and others were really bad. You could see them dying and you could do nothing. The government has vowed a thorough and transparent investigation. Unlike another deadly crash in Spain in 2013, when 80 people were killed after a speeding train derailed on a curve, the trains in this case were going under the speed limit. Officials say the crash happened on a stretch of high-speed track that was renovated in 2025. The country's transportation minister called the accident extremely strange.
It's an unusual derailment because derailments don't often happen on a straight track.
This rail safety expert says these types of accidents are very rare.
In a Western European country where the rail systems are very well developed, it is a shock, to be honest.
Spain has Europe's largest network of high-speed rail lines. And last year, the union representing Spanish train drivers had warned regulators that the rail infrastructure was deteriorating because of increased traffic. Briar Stewart, CBC News, London.
Weeks of heavy rain have caused devastating flooding in Mozambique and parts of South Africa.
The situation continues to evolve quite rapidly. Rains are still expected to continue for the coming days, and the water dams are already at full capacity, so the situation could worsen, placing further people at risk.
Vast areas of land are submerged in water, and countless roads and bridges have been flooded or destroyed. Aid workers say more than 70,000 homes have been inundated and that boats and helicopters are being used to reach residents stranded on rooftops. At least 130 people have been killed since the rainy season began in October.
A disturbing story out of Manitoba to tell you about. It concerns a child being exploited on social media. The shocking part of it, just how young the victim is. The CBC's Michelle Allen has the details and a warning: some may find parts of this story disturbing.
A 7-year-old Manitoba girl was sexually exploited on Snapchat while just one room away from her mother. Coerced into sending explicit photos and videos by a stranger. Her mother found pictures of the man's genitals on the phone. A victim that young might be shocking to some, not to Detective Sergeant Mike Olson.
Under 10, it used to be a surprise. Now I would say it's more common.
CBC obtained an RCMP production order requesting the Snapchat account data to try and track down who contacted the girl. Olson wasn't involved in this specific case, but has investigated many like it.
It's probably more just with kids that are spending more time. The more time on these devices, the higher the chance that these kind of things can happen.
Olson recommends supervising children whenever they're online, but he also says companies like Snapchat need to do more to prevent it. The Canadian Centre for Child Protection says it's received over 1,200 reports of children under 13 being lured online. The #1 platform? Snapchat.
They'll often refer to things like Instagram or Snapchat as a phone book for children because you can easily just find kids and perhaps send a friend request or perhaps kind of somehow get into their friend group.
Welcome to Snapchat's Family Center, your go-to hub for tools and resources to help.
Snapchat says users need to be 13 and up. It has some parental controls on teen accounts. Parents can see a week-long history of who their kids are chatting with.
In the same way parents can't see or hear their teens' everyday personal and private communications, parents won't be able to view their teens' conversations or snaps.
It's essentially designed to download responsibility onto the end user and kids inside of these inherently dangerously designed environments, and the platforms somehow absolve themselves of responsibility.
Marcoux says parental supervision can only go so far. He says social media apps make money off people using them, including kids, and won't increase their security willingly. Unless Canada passes laws forcing them to meet safety codes, Marcoux says more Canadian children will be exploited. As for the case of the 7-year-old Manitoba girl, RCMP found the man in the United Kingdom. Now it's up to police there to investigate. Michelle Allen, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The latest snapshot on inflation is out. Data from StatsCan shows the cost of living was up last month. It says the inflation rate rose slightly in December to 2.4%. That's up from 2.2% in November. The year-over-year rise was driven largely by the end of Ottawa's GST holiday back in December of 2024. Of particular note, the price of coffee was up more than 30% last month, while the cost of beef rose 16.8%. Gasoline, in contrast, went down nearly 14%.
Canadian soccer fans are preparing for World Cup matches in Toronto and Vancouver this summer, and they are not alone. Healthcare workers are getting ready to deal with medical issues that might arise when those cities see a massive influx of visitors. Jennifer Lagrassa has more.
The countdown is on to the FIFA World Cup in Canada, but now a warning about what the influx of fans could mean for emergency rooms.
We are constantly running our healthcare system at 100% capacity, and I would be concerned going forward about having a surge in need for hospital resources.
In June, hundreds of thousands of people are expected to travel to Toronto and Vancouver for the games. That was top of mind for Dr. Catherine Varner while on shift during the Blue Jays World Series run last fall.
We had one ICU bed available.
Now, in a Canadian Medical Association journal editorial, Varner points to years of research showing that large gatherings can take a toll on the healthcare system.
This is a setup for the spread of contagious or infectious diseases.
COVID-19, measles, food and waterborne illnesses like hepatitis A are among the risks from the FIFA Games flagged by Public Health Ontario.
Measles is so contagious. It will spread potentially like wildfire.
In Vancouver, after the 2010 Olympics, new measles strains led to an outbreak of 82 cases, 3 months following the event.
Getting people all together in a stadium or in a bar or in any setting, if one person has the measles, everyone will be exposed within 30 minutes. And there are lower vaccination rates in many other countries, and there will be representation from these very countries during FIFA.
And with the World Cup games this year running into July, health officials also worry about wildfires, knowing that smoke or heat warnings can send people to hospital. Vancouver's FIFA public health lead says he's confident the city can manage.
The health system does respond to issues like this with some regularity and does have mechanisms in place.
I think the challenge is execution of those plans.
For Varner, she says the system will adapt in a crisis, but she worries that it could come at the cost of quality care. Jennifer Lagrassa, CBC News, Toronto.
He was an icon of the fashion world, a man known internationally by just his first name, Valentino. The Italian haute couture designer died Monday at the age of 93. Valentino Garavani started his luxury fashion house back in 1960 and was the first Italian designer to be featured on the Paris catwalks. He often said he knew what women want, and his sumptuous, understated gowns, including his trademark shade of Valentino red, were adored by A-listers around the world. Valentino died at his home in Rome and will be lying in state in the Italian capital until his funeral on Friday.
Canada's main stock index finished in positive territory today as mining companies made gains. U.S. stock markets were closed for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Here is a look at the numbers as we head to break.
This weather update is brought to you in part by Atlantic Lottery's iGames. Play hundreds of games on the Atlantic Lottery app or at alc.ca.
We were just saying how pretty it was this morning with all the snow, but honestly, I would have preferred the fluffier stuff that they got in some parts of the province. It was kind of heavy.
Yeah, a lot of, as you were saying earlier, sore backs probably tonight. Ice packs, heating packs.
For sure. And if you were lucky enough to have a snowblower, you probably spent a lot of time like kind of jamming, you know, it just
heavy
packs
stuff.
right in there with that. So everybody with the heat pads tonight, I'm guessing. Have a look at our viewer picture of the day. And of course, we're going to show you a nice pic from today. This was out in the Truro region, Victoria Park.
Lovely.
Everything coated. Nice.
That is beautiful.
Bruce Barry, thank you so much for sharing that. Ryan's picks at CBC.ca. And yeah, a little bit more snow to come overnight into tomorrow. Looking at the best chances from Yarmouth to Digby, the Annapolis Valley, and into the Cobequid Bay area and across the North Shore and into northern Cape Breton as well. Temperatures tomorrow, you can see, will be pretty close to the freezing mark. The westerly winds will be stronger tomorrow, no question. Sustained near 20 to 30, even stronger Yarmouth towards Digby, where we'll be sustained near 40 and could see some gusts, widespread gusts near 40 with some gusts to 50 in Cape Breton and some gusts closer to 60 for Yarmouth, Digby, Shelburne, and into the western areas of the valley. And so, yeah, with that, couple that with the flurries moving in, and you could see some localized blowing snow tomorrow morning and just not a great drive to work, for those areas in the west. Those flurries will blow through, should see some relief into Tuesday afternoon, but still the risk for a squall coming in for the southwest and into the Annapolis Valley region. And then that colder air will kind of move in for Wednesday, but not really sticking around for a long time. Wednesday night in through Thursday, another brief shot of a few centimeters of snow, and then we're over to showers by Thursday afternoon. Mild for Friday, not so mild for the weekend.
Freeze, oh my.
Yeah, way down there. Okay, thanks, Ryan. Hockey games in Moncton this weekend proved that you don't need sight to play the game.
More than 30 blind players from across the country competed in a 3-game series at the Eastern Regional Blind Hockey Tournament.
It's awesome. I mean, the level of play is really strong. The players, some of them have played junior A even, so it's a nice level of play. It's fast. It's a lot of steal of air. Goalies are really good too. So it's not an easy game to play at first for sure, but as you go for anything else, as long as you practice, you have fun. That's the main goal.
The game is played by athletes with 10% vision or less and follows rules similar to regular hockey.
The most notable difference is the special metal puck. It is twice the size of a traditional one and makes noise when it is struck, allowing the players to track it by sound.
The event was organized by the Canadian Blind Hockey Association, a nonprofit organization that empowers and advocates for the blind.
Looks like fun.
Yeah.
That's it for us tonight. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Good night.
Good night.